Hello guys, bersama saya lagi dalam ORAITNOPO channel. Sahabat-sahabat semua, saya tertanya-tanya, ya, kenapakah pihak pembangkang, pemimpin-pemimpin daripada PAS dan juga Bersatu begitu takut sehingga mereka akan menggunakan apa sahaja isu untuk membina naratif politik kotor, untuk mahu menjatuhkan reputasi image Perdana Menteri kita hari ini. Sahabat-sahabat semua, pernahkah ada tertanya-tanya dengan soalan ini? Jadi bagi pandangan saya sebenarnya mereka takutkan Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim hari ini, kalau beliau berjaya mengemudi negara kita, berjaya menyelesaikan segala permasalahan di dalam negara kita seperti ekonomi, kebajikan rakyat, inflasi, pengangguran, meningkatkan ekonomi kita, dan banyak lagi sahabat-sahabat semua. Mungkin mereka semakin takut sekiranya berjaya kerajaan hari ini di bawah pimpinan Datuk Seri berjaya untuk menyelesaikan semua itu. Dan kalau berjaya, ianya akan menjadikan rakyat di luar sana semakin yakin dengan kerajaan hari ini. Jadi mereka akan cuba, ini pandangan saya, pihak pembangkang cuba untuk merosakkan image Perdana Menteri kita agar kelihatan kononnya gagal mengurus negara kita. Mungkin ya persoalan ini menarik untuk kita fikirkan bersama. Namun sahabat semua, di saat pihak pembangkang ini semakin membanggakan diri dengan berbagai provokasi, dengan berbagai tuduhan kepada Perdana Menteri kita hari ini, Datuk Seri di mata dunia semakin bersinar sahabat-sahabat semua. Ya, pelabur semakin yakin ya kepada kepimpinan Perdana Menteri kita. Buktinya semasa lawatan ke Australia baru-baru ini, lawatan rasmi ya, bukan pergi bercuti, ada beberapa buah company ataupun kerajaan Australia berminat ya dikatakan untuk melabur ke negara kita. Jadi ini adalah perkara yang baik dan ianya adalah berita baik untuk negara kita. Jadi sahabat semua, saya ingin membawakan Anda untuk mendengar satu dialog ya terhadap Perdana Menteri kita ya semasa berada lawatan rasmi di negara Australia itu. Jadi tanpa buang masa sahabat semua, mari kita tonton video ini.
Ask a few questions to you now, and then we're going to ask the audience to ask some questions in terms of matters relating to Malaysia, obviously, but also the region more broadly from an investment viewpoint. Starting with my first question, if I may. You're one of the great leaders of our time, and it's a great privilege to be here with you. You've fought your whole life for freedom and democracy, often at great personal cost. You've made reforms, you've made changes, but as well as that, you've been a great thinker, a renowned thinker. You've written about the region, you've written about the region's place in the world in terms of your book, Asian Renaissance. That was some time ago. What are your thoughts now about what the West can learn from the East, what Australia can learn from Asia? What sort of the broader themes coming through? You touched on a few in your speech. What are some of the other themes we should be thinking about?
Nicholas starts with a very, very difficult question. Now,
dan kita jangan jadi golongan munafik, masih hidup, ada umur, ada rezeki, ada.
Come to Australia, other than meeting Albanese, is also to touch the koala, which I did yesterday, and my grandkids was so excited, amazing. They don't care about the Prime Minister, bilateral, 24 billion ringgit. They're just asking me endlessly about the koala. That goes for Australia. Now, I use the term complementarity. You see, the problem in the world, you go extend beyond just business issues, is the issue of declining or general moral degradation, or people care less about values and integrity. There is what you call politics ambivalence. You decide on policies not in a consistent, coherent manner. So it is time, therefore, for us in the East or Asia to learn about the strength, technology of the West, and for the West to also appreciate that this is a globalized society and world. There's no issue about any particular country or system dictating their views and values in the West. I don't want to repeat the issue that have been here highlighted so much that has somewhat deflected from some of the major concerns in our relations with ASEAN and with Australia, about with China. But my contention has always been that this is we're dealing with a different world. You ask about us in Malaysia in the whole terms of foreign policy. Our traditional ally has been the West. The United States cumulatively is the largest investor into Malaysia and continue to be until today, notwithstanding some of my political remarks or differences in terms of foreign policy. But we have to accept the new realities, the zeitgeist of our times. That China is a growing economy. It must be taken as a friend. And we should not cast this aspersions and using, I should say, contradictions as a term, different way of assessing the importance of a particular country when dealing with, say, China. So that's what my position is. In Malaysia, we want to be able to work well with Europe and the United States, and of course most of Australia, because we consider Australia part of Asia. I'm not sure what the Australians think, but that's what I think. And I've met many Australians who now are shifting the thinking. Look, we are part of the region, and many of us, I mean, you see, all the leaders of ASEAN attended and accept the invitation of Albanese, and this is remarkable. Yeah. In the remarks, both in the public session, in the private sessions, the retreat among leaders, we were very positive in welcoming Australia to engage with us and to be considered to be part of us, to the extent that people have been asking, should Australia be a member of ASEAN? Of course, I say it's a bit premature, but we are moving towards that direction. And to me, whether Australia is going to be part of ASEAN is determined mainly by the policies and attitude of the Australians. But I would view the relationship, the enhanced bilateral and regional relations with Australia as something very positive. So this is why, partly because we can learn. There are areas like digital, technology, food, technology, issue of energy transition and renewable energy. I think in many ways Australia has an upper hand. But you also see in countries in ASEAN moving at a pace so fast that they can easily be seen to be able to complement the successes in Australia. So I would view that, and I think in response to Nicholas, is that there should be a new mindset, new attitude that not condescending. You see. I come from a society that hates this issue of some authorities in some capitals, so condescending, hectoring others about democracy, human rights, and whereas we see so much contradictions and hypocrisy. So it is for us to have the humility to learn. I always popularize T.S. Eliot's view on humility. T.S. Eliot, the great poet, English or American, I don't know, it's both. The only wisdom we can hope to acquire, humility. And humility, the wisdom of humility is endless. And if we have that among political leaders, among captains of industry, Macquarie chief, and the world is safe for us all. Because we all accept we have something to contribute, but we have also to have the humility to accept our limitations and to learn.
Thank you. That's actually a great lead into the next question I had, which is about partnerships. You mentioned in your opening words the importance of partnerships across the region in terms of addressing problems as a group. We're here in a corporate audience, so we have to look at partnership between companies, and humility obviously is a very good place to start. But what other advice would you give Australian companies and Malaysian companies, and indeed companies from the region working together? At the moment, as you announced, there's $5 billion worth of new investment in Malaysia you announced yesterday. That adds to the $10 billion already there. And of course $20 billion of investment in Australia. So we've been doing a lot. How do we do it better as partners, corporate partners, not just government-to-government partners?
Well, for Australia, Malaysia specifically, I would say that we're moving in the right direction, because from the examples of some of the companies that I have seen, let's say in the last year or so as Prime Minister, there is this preparedness to engage and work together. But beyond that, as I've said, I gave this example of Thailand, just tourism, is working together and benefiting from one another. Data centers in Johor, this is complementing Singapore very closely, and therefore the engagement and joint operations between Singapore companies and Malaysian companies is pivotal. Similarly with the other neighbors. So I think, you are the experts in this field. I've never been a captain of industry. So you would know. But as a policy, I would say this, that the role of government is to not only facilitate, but accelerate the process. And you would know your priorities. We will just give a macroeconomic picture and a general policy. I think the problem government is sometimes we think we know everything. That's why I mentioned to my colleagues in the cabinet that even if we have charted this clarity of policy in terms of energy transition, or digital transformation, or food technology, these are just broad framework and priorities. It is that for the captains of industry to then determine and decide what is best. And then we would of course encourage this quiet collaboration between foreign interests and national based companies, so that the workings and training and transfer of technology worked more effectively.
Thank you, Prime Minister. A related question to that is the role of sovereign wealth funds. There's quite a debate in Australia at the moment about our sovereign wealth fund, what it should be investing in, should it be neutral, should it be trying to develop particular industries. Across the region we see sovereign wealth funds are developing. There's been quite a history of sovereign wealth funds. What are your view and advice in terms of how the government should be working with the private sector with sovereign wealth funds, either directing in-country or more globally across the region?
Well, Nick, technically, yes, the sovereign wealth funds are controlled by the government. But from our experience, there's always a danger when there is that excessive political interference in terms of decision-making process. So in the sovereign wealth fund, say in Malaysia, including Khazanah, or in that matter Petronas, not directly relevant, but here in that context, although I technically chair, I made it very clear that decisions, I provide the policy guideline, business decisions must be made purely by the business people, experts. The moment you interfere and from a political angle, then that's where the controversy lies. All the criticism against sovereign wealth funds are not because of just some decisions made. Sometimes, of course, you fail, and invariably in any business decisions, there's no guarantee that always succeed. But the main criticism is because of undue political interference. The political leadership should provide broad policies, but it is for the business community to decide. And I think, therefore, for our countries, sovereign wealth funds is still, to my mind, is still important, it's critical in this phase of transition to become purely industrialized nation. That we need these sovereign wealth funds to back up and support the industrial base.
Okay, thank you, Prime Minister. So questions from the floor. Any questions? We have a number of microphones, I think, on either side of the room. Any questions that people would like to come through? Yes, Lee Howard from AsiaLink. AsiaLink is funded by the Australian government and has done an enormous amount to increase the literacy of the Australian business and broader community in opportunities in the region.
Thank you, Nicholas. Salamat pagi, Kata Sri. We've heard a lot this week about very compelling statistics about the region. We've also heard about partnership and collaboration, and then you've talked about the wisdom of humility. I'd like to ask if we're going to start interacting more. We've got this booming investment coming into Malaysia from Australia. What is it essential that Australian businesses and Australian people know about doing business in Malaysia? What are some of the key observations or key lessons about the business culture, the business environment, and what type of capabilities do you think Australian businesses and their people need to know to be even more successful in building out these partnerships and collaboration? Thank you.
I don't think it's anything complicated or complex. Sometimes you view from the past experience where you have these clearly policies on protecting the national interests or quotas or determining what sort of who should be your partner. These things have stopped. I mean, you want to enter into business, there are clear business rules, clear policies, clear guidelines, and you move. Choose your partner, you decide to do so, and move forward. Because we have had experience of too many agencies dealing with it, so we have, for example, a meeting minister to coordinate at the cabinet level, and MIDA, one central agency to deal with all the 18 agencies. I mean, I hear the common complaint is the issue of ease of doing business, and the solution is one-stop agency. And my cynical remark is that's where it stops. It's not approval. So I said, no, don't call it one-stop agency. To facilitate or accelerate the process is better. So I frankly don't see this as a problem, because there were some Australian businessmen, they still reflect on the experience in the past. The formative period, sometimes there are concerns, in terms of equity, equitable distribution, the concerns of, say, the Malay community, which was real at the time. But I think now the focus is now development, progress, new investments. And there were major adjustments made in our policies.
Thank you, Prime Minister. A question from Shamara.
I'm just interested in terms of lessons Australia can learn. You're saying how ASEAN is working more closely together now. From what you're experiencing with other regions that are investing there. So I know I've been told by some of the ASEAN representatives here, the Middle Easterns are coming and investing much more, the Canadians, the Dutch. Have you got lessons for us on things we can do to partner and engage strongly compared to what you learned?
You see, Australia is a close neighbor, but the aggressiveness of many of the established companies is not there. Somehow or other, traditionally they've been looking more at the United States and Europe. And I think they're losing the battle in terms of economic opportunities in the region, because you have a huge interest from the Middle East. UAE, Saudi Arabia, I'm not exaggerating, I'm talking about $10 billion in a year entering into Malaysia. The big companies from the Middle East, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, to name a few. And even in Europe, I mean, in Finion, for example, announced a €5 billion investment expansion into Malaysia, and so that's Germany. So there, I see a sense of not on Europe in its entirety. I mean, few select countries, but certainly in the Middle East, you see this more aggressive interest into ASEAN and Malaysia for sure. But I do not see this reflected in terms of the interests of Australia, except for the traditional investors who is familiar to the country. So I would certainly suggest Bursa or Securities Commission or MITI to make probably special invitation to them to just come to Malaysia and see for yourself. Things are changing drastically, and we need to encourage more Australians to come.
Thank you, Prime Minister. That's a great challenge, and it's really at the core of our strategy in terms of trying to increase the amount of trade and investment between Australia and Malaysia. And I think the challenge you lay down is very clear, that it is a very competitive marketplace out there. The world sees the opportunities in Malaysia and the region more broadly, and we need to step up and respond to it. So Ms. Hawkins, we have time for one further question. We have one question, or we have one question here.
Thank you very much. My name is Roger Chan. I'm the president of the Sarawak Australian Business Chamber. For the Australian and ASEAN who don't know where Sarawak is, it's in Borneo, the third largest island in the world, if you don't consider Australia as an island. Now, my question to Prime Minister is, as Malaysia is the host country for ASEAN next year, and also next year also marks the 70th anniversary of Australian-Malaysia diplomatic relation. Would the Prime Minister consider, holding, one or two events in Sarawak, and to let a lot of Australian and ASEAN get to know Sarawak? Sarawak has now over 70% of the energy as renewable energy, and is forging ahead very much in this hydrogen as well. So an opportunity for the ASEAN delegates to come to Sarawak, and Sarawak is also a lead partner to the Borneo Economic Council, which was just formed last year under the ASEAN Business Advisory Council. So an opportunity for delegates to come to Sarawak to brief the one of the best quality air in ASEAN is the 150 million years of the rainforest, one of the oldest rainforests. Thank you.
No, thank you. Well, we hosting ASEAN. I'll take over ASEAN chair, inshallah, next year. And the initial plan that the foreign ministers crafted is that some major programs, of course, in Kuala Lumpur, in Kuching, in Kota Kinabalu, and some other areas. It's not all going to be confined in Kuala Lumpur. Now, secondly, thank you, Roger, because Sarawak has the state government under the Premier has made some major advances in terms of renewable energy and hydrogen. They have energy export to Kalimantan, to new capital Indonesia. There is now ongoing negotiations, undersea cable to export energy from Sarawak to Singapore, and one cable from Sarawak to Peninsula Malaysia. So it's a huge potential. And I think at the rate they are going, and with the capacity, we may be the major hub for renewable energy in the region, because the capacity in Sarawak is huge. So it's not just renewable energy, but I was speaking to one of the major investors to go to the Mulu Cave, which is an outstanding feature which is not found anywhere else in the world. Okay.
Terbaik sahabat-sahabat semua, itu kita berbangga dengan adanya Perdana Menteri ya, seperti Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, kefasihan berbahasa Inggris, ya, bagaimana pemimpin-pemimpin dunia melihat beliau sebagai seorang susuk individu yang begitu jitu semangat juangnya dalam mempertabatkan rakyat khususnya. Dan juga hari ini kita boleh lihat di bawah pentadbiran Perdana Menteri kita hari ini, ya, begitu terujanya negara-negara luar ya untuk bertemu bersama dengan Perdana Menteri kita. Tetapi tidak kepada walaun-walauntit, lebay-lebay, geng tebuk atap, geng sapu bersih yang seringkali ya menabur fitnah, membuat tuduhan kepada Perdana Menteri kita. Amat-amat memalukan sahabat semua adanya geng pembangkang sebegini rupa di dalam negara kita. Jadi apapun, terima kasih sekiranya Anda memberikan sebarang komen, pandangan berkaitan dengan isu ini dan berikan di dalam ruangan komen. Jadi izinkan saya untuk mengundurkan diri dan seperti biasa peribahasa mengatakan tak apapun kangkap 2 tahun keinginan. Dalam bahasa Melayunya, tepuk dadah, tanya selera. Sekian daripada ORAITNOPO Channel, saya kita berjumpa lagi. Bye-bye.